the #1 superfood to prevent osteoporosis and help regrow bone, actually increase bone mineral density, you ready, is prunes. Without any doubt whatsoever, the overwhelming research and my studies, cell studies, human studies, all point to prunes being a superfood for bone health and clearly outperforming any of the medications there with lots and lots of side benefits in there. But before I get on and explain the research behind the prune, and hang in to the end, because it's not just the prunes, there are other things you can do, which I'll explain right at the end, which will help you multiply that benefit of the prunes. So hang in there. The first and most obvious thing is there are a number of conditions that lead to an increase in bone loss, increase in osteoporosis. And the first one is low estrogen. You've got obesity, gut dysbiosis, which is a dysfunction of the microbiome. And you'll know from all my other videos, I talk a lot about that and how it's linked with all health conditions. So once we start to fix the gut, we start to actually fix all of these health conditions. Then you've got diet, lifestyle, and age. Age, not in as much as you have to have, we're going to increase your bone loss as you age, but usually in the case, particularly with women, where you've got lower estrogen as a result and an imbalance of the things that put bones together and so on, which I'll talk about in a moment. And those conditions lead to inflammation, oxidation, and an imbalance in the osteoblasts and the osteoclasts. And then the osteoblasts are the little mechanisms that put bone on bone. And the osteoclast is the one that takes them off. And normally what's happening is it's in balance. Takes them off, puts them on, takes them off, puts them on. The osteoblast puts them on, the osteoclast takes them off and resorbs it into the system, and it gets reused. Now, we've always thought, well, hold on, we need more calcium. No, what we need to do is rebalance all of this, and that's what's critical. These conditions lead to inflammation, oxidation, and an imbalance in the osteoblast and osteoclast conditions, which, by the way, inflammation and oxidation also lead to. So what we're aiming here is to reverse that condition, and that's what prunes do. So to begin with, the first group of studies literally just sought out all of the best information they could, and they said, okay, what fruits and veggies and other foods too? And everyone thinks, oh, dairy. No, prunes. And the first research sought out which ones are going to be the best ones. And they compiled this list, and right at the top of the list was the prunes, then a couple of others, which I'll talk about at the end, which just rate a lot lower than the prunes, but still better than most fruits and veggies. Now, the research on fruits and veggies overwhelmingly are linked with improved bone health. A lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't have fruit and you shouldn't eat too much of that. Rubbish. It's fruits and veggies that actually sustain your bone health as well as your cardiovascular and your hormonal health and a whole raft of other things. Anyway, getting here. So they came to the conclusion it was prunes. And now, so we now have more than 20 preclinical studies. These are on mice. These are when they get the mice and they do all these strange things to them, like expose them to radiation, for example, which is known to cause osteoporosis. And they put them in some form of capsule that mimics space travel, and they don't have the weight bearing anymore, and as a result they lose bone mass. Now, there are lots of ways that they test it. They're just two I thought were quite funny and fascinating, and also give you a little bit of a hint there that if you're having radiotherapy or you know anyone and it's playing havoc with the bones, well, it's been tested on this. So we know that prunes actually help regrow bones under these conditions. So these are all the mice studies, and the mice studies overwhelmingly point to the fact that it stops osteoporosis, bone loss, and it helps regrow new bone. I'll show you that in a moment. And then we've got at least 6 human trials. And I know there are some currently underway, so searching around all the scientific journals, in contacting a few people, we know that there are 6 human trials done and a couple are underway, and mostly on women, but also men. And the age group is typically the 55 to 80, the postmenopausal women, and the older men. So the largest category of osteoporosis, and over 50% of that age category has some form of osteoporosis, or at least usually. So that's the group they've been testing in the human clinical trials, and have all shown up huge benefits. And from the human studies, they actually find out the amount you need is 50 to 100 grams. Now, all of the early studies said 100 grams, but then this one study said, what if we go and test it for 50 grams? And they did. And the 50 gram test showed up just as positive. Now, that's 50 grams of dried plums, prunes, a day. Now, if you don't have them every day, that doesn't matter. And if you have 40 or 60 or 80 or 100, it doesn't matter. The point is, add them to your diet as a regime every day. If you're over 40, in fact, you may as well start younger. And that's basically a small handful of prunes. And that's incredibly cheap, effective, and really tasty. I love prunes. They're really, really tasty. So we've got that amount every single day. But the first thing that the research showed very, very clearly was that it decreased inflammation, it decreased oxidation. Hold on, they're the things that are causing it, aren't they? Oh, these are the things that are causing all these diseases. So prunes have these super beneficial effects, and it helps bone homeostasis, bringing back the osteoblasts and the osteoclasts into some balance again. So all it's doing is returning it to where it should be. And as a result of that, we end up, from all the mouse studies in particular, but also the human studies, because in the mouse studies, they're able to go in and look at a lot more of the biochemistry of what's going on. And we see an increase in bone biomarkers. So all the biochemistry and the chemistry around bone health jumps up and says, good, this is really good for you. We see that it prevents the bone loss in the animals. It increases bone deposition, so there's more osteoblast activity, so the more increase in bone density, and an increase in bone mineral density, which is the measure that they do to tell you if you've got osteoporosis or some other bone-related condition. Now, the great thing here about this is that these conditions are also linked with things like rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and a whole lot of other bone conditions. So it also has been shown to benefit these. Wow, it's a win-win situation, just a handful of prunes. Then you've got the question, why does it work? Well, the reason it works so well is because it's got this synergy of nutrients in it. So all these different nutrients work to actually help bone. Wow, this is pretty amazing because it's got potassium, boron, well-known copper, magnesium, vitamin K. Vitamin K, by the way, is fantastic for blood parameters too, a little hint in there. Vitamin A, polyphenols, and fiber. They're the major ingredients in there. Now, what they did was they've taken components out. They've said, okay, what if we just take the polyphenols out and test them? Are they the things causing it? And they found out that it had a 60 to 80% increase in the parameters, but not that 100%. So they said, what else? And then they added a few others, and they realized that it had to be the whole prunes. Now, if I could make prunes into a new drug, I can tell you now it would be worth $100 million overnight, and it'd be worth $1 billion over a couple of years. That's how good this is as a treatment for bone mineral density loss and osteoporosis. Now, what are the other benefits of this? Well, clearly prunes taste nice, they're easy to add, you can mix them in your breakfast, just have a handful of them, but they also lead to a decrease in cardiovascular risk factors. And the main one there is it decreases blood pressure. Now, I've written extensively on blood pressure, hypertension and high blood pressure, and I've highlighted the role of these. Please watch those videos. They've got literally 1,000 studies in the ones on hypertension that I've pulled together over the years, and they show the benefits of fruits. But in this case, we know that the increase in prunes decreases blood pressure, it improves gut health, and by doing so, it increases a couple of the bacteria that everybody knows, you know, lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. They're the ones you get in the yogurts and the probiotics and so on. And it actually helps regrow these bacteria in the gut. So it's a win-win situation. And these have all multiple benefits throughout the body. So prunes are a great food. They're a really healthy food, but they're an absolute superfood when it comes to bone health. So the critical thing then is, what do we need to do to multiply that benefit? Well, the first thing is to make sure that your body is not in a state of metabolic acidosis. Because even with the prunes, it will struggle to benefit your bones and struggle to stop osteoporosis if you're eating lots of sugar and processed foods literally because it creates a state of acidosis in your body. Now, I've got a video on acidosis. Please watch the video. It'll show you how to test it. Subscribe to the channel below because it will give you a lot of information about all of these health issues, especially as we get a little bit older. And if you subscribe, then you get updated on all the new information that becomes available in the scientific community. So the first thing is acidosis, making sure your body isn't acidic. It's not producing an excess of acid that your body can't handle. Now, it's really simple to fix, easy to fix. Just check out that video. The second one is the top 2 other foods that came in are, second was onions, a long way below prunes, by the way. Onions come in as a great food, and the reason they come in for a great food is, here's a little hint, it's got something in it called quercetin, spelled Quercetin, okay, quercetin. And quercetin is a great polyphenol, and it's been shown to increase bone regrowth and stop osteoporosis in its tracks as well. Now, you can get that as a supplement in addition to having onions, and garlic apples have it as well. But absolutely, onions come in as the second food. And the third food that's just showing up in the radar is blueberries. Now, they're a lot more expensive than prunes and other things, but if you love your blueberries, great. How many? Don't know yet. We haven't got they haven't got to the clinical trials yet. But there's so many other things. And in fact, there's a whole heap of research showing that you can absolutely prevent osteoporosis and regrow bone mass and bone mineral density. And I've got other videos coming up on that very soon. So subscribe below, tick the box and share it with your friends.